Have you ever seen something from the corner of your eye that wasn't there when you looked again? How about hearing from a friend of a friend that while they were hiking somewhere, they thought they saw something impossible, but when they spoke to a ranger, there was always a vague explanation that didn't quite add up. My name is Chris, and this is my colleague Jack, and we're senior wardens for the Creature Conservation Initiative. We protect the world from the creatures of superstition and myth, but more importantly, protect those same creatures from the world. Ahoy there, you land lovers! Welcome aboard this new episode of Building and Your Ship It! Yes, we are going out to sea today. Mr. Jack, hoist the colours!
Did you say blinking you'll ship it? Are we changing our entire aim of the podcast to ships?
Yes.
We're shipping characters from popular movies now. Only if it's mythological.
That actually sounds like a good podcast idea. Anyway, I'm going to write that down. Yes, $1 million idea. Anyway, how are you doing today?
I'm okay, thank you very much. How are you doing?
Oh, well, surviving, trying not to read the news. You know how it is.
Yeah. I do wonder, are there any creatures we could get to help with the current state of the world?
I mean, probably.
Yeah. Audience, feel free to interpret help however you would like to.
Yes, we are not legally responsible for anything that might be interpreted into these statements, and also, I don't know. Anyway.
The beasts help.
Let's delve into a less chaotic world, maybe. And I was thinking...
Yeah, who would have thought we'd ever say that when we first started?
Definitely not. Yeah, but that's how the cookie crumbles, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, so how are you? What have you been doing?
I have been thinking that I haven't done any German creatures in a while, and I thought, why am I even on this podcast?
I've wondered.
Yeah, I get it. Especially in the AI age, why not just replace the weird man? But yeah, we also, you and me had a little talk the other day about how German language seems to be obsessed with dwarves and small people and stuff like that. And
yeah.
I wasn't really aware of that before we talked about it, but Jack had a point, and that also made me think of a specific small humanoid creature that we could talk about today, and that is the Klabautermann.
The Klabautermann?
Close enough.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Klabautermann.
Klabautermann. I have no idea what one of them could be.
The Klabautermann is a subset basically of kobolds, which in German folklore is kind of the entire category basically of kind of household spirits and creatures that kind of live in your space with you without you really seeing them.
Okay.
And I'm sure there are other definitions, but that also kind of matches up with our CCI categorization. I cannot speak today. Anyway, so for example, you might have heard of a poltergeist, which is technically a kobold, apparently. So there's a lot of different forms that a kobold can take. And one of these forms is the Klabautermann, which is usually found on a ship. And the name, there are two main theories where it might come from. I'm not a linguist, I'm not sure which one has more merit, but it's either from the word klabastern, which basically means to knock, so it's named after the noise it makes on the ship.
Cool.
Or others say it comes from the Kalfater, which is a name for the caulker on a ship, apparently.
All right.
I'm not too familiar with maritime jobs, but yeah, that is the second theory where the name might come from.
Okay, so these are little kobold-like creatures that live on ships.
Yeah.
And
they're about 2 feet high, and just usually you do not see them. We're not quite sure if they are invisible or just really, really good at hiding.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah, one of those. And yeah, the myth traditionally talks about them as a ghost, which we usually rule out most of the time because of the whole afterlife thing that it would imply. And
there are spectral creatures, but there's not ghosts.
Exactly. Spectral is a better term for that, and that's definitely the case here. Yeah, as I said, they usually live on a ship, and most of the time they are quite benign, and they even help out on the ship and everything. And the earliest written records we have come from the 1810s. The first famous one was made by Heinrich Heine in the 1820s. And his sources apparently told him that the belief is at least 50 years old, so we're talking about 1770s, which is allegedly where this whole thing was first witnessed by people.
Okay, so we got a creature. It's relatively new find.
Relatively new by our standards, and it's also quite specific to a region. Because we usually only hear about it in the region of like North Germany in Netherlands, or the North Sea in general.
Okay, so they're kind of northern creatures. Got anything to do with the Christmas elves, or is that just kind of throwing it in there?
Not that I know of. But ask the science guys. Maybe they'll find a link.
I mean, it's just literally a random shot in the dark, if I'm perfectly honest. But I was kind of curious. But no, so they're kind of like northern European kind of creatures, but mostly Germany, or only really in Germany.
Not only in Germany. It seems to have originated, or the tales about it mostly seem to come from German folklore, but is also known around the entire North Sea and in the Baltic countries, and some of them have different names, but it seems to be the same creature that people have been talking about.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the myth of how you get a Klabautermann on your ship is a little bit morbid.
Oh,
and it was.
I'm going to retract the excited ooh. I thought you were about to give me like a manual on how you get one of these fun little helpful creatures on your ship.
I mean, I will. I'm just not sure you're gonna follow through on that.
Depends on the day.
Also, the church is involved again.
Of course.
Because why not? And it was said that unbaptized or stillborn children that died and were buried under a tree, basically their soul goes into the tree, and if you then use that wood to build a ship, then you get their ghost in the form of a Klabautermann on your ship.
So
there are variations of that, where it's not just unbaptized children, but general children that die next to a tree or something, but that's the gist.
So, arboriculture zombie children made into a ship?
I wouldn't necessarily say zombie, because they don't have that body anymore, but close enough.
Spiritual zombie.
Yes.
Okay, well, just very quickly, I definitely feel the need to say I definitely retract the excited ooh from before you said all of that. I am not trying to kill children.
Do you still want to follow the instructions?
Absolutely not. In a public forum.
I thought so. I'm gonna ask you again after recording. Anyway, as I said, usually you do not see them, but sometimes you do. We'll get to that. And when you see them, what they look like is kind of a small humanoid creature, like about 2 feet tall, and they tend to have red hair, green teeth, and they live on ships, and they are usually decked out in like sailor clothes. So they have this kind of sailor cap, they have a raincoat on most of the time, red or gray usually. They have a tobacco pipe, because why not?
Okay.
There are some people who describe them as being butt naked, but that is definitely not normal. Then again, who knows with Klabautermann?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of butt naked when we're talking about children.
I mean, they're not children anymore, if that helps.
Well, there's a connection, and I'm not happy about butt naked on a ship, especially in international waters.
Well.
That sounds a little bit like a problem.
Yeah, so especially in regards to clothes, there are varied reports. So they have a general style, but it's not like they all clothe themselves identically.
Okay.
But yeah, basically a tiny sailor.
So in a way, if they weren't 2 feet tall, they could almost pass for a tiny sailor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I like it.
And yeah, usually the only time a Klabautermann will show himself is when the ship is about to sink, or at the very least in danger in some way. And that is why the sight of a Klabautermann is considered an ill omen. And
okay.
he was kind of feared by many sailors, because when you see one, you know that things are probably not going to go well.
Okay, so that's how they kind of become a bit of a ill omen.
Yes.
All right.
I've read this while trying to figure out the history, and I am pretty sure this is just a prank for new sailors, but it was said that if you want to see it without causing danger, the way to do it is that at night between 12 and 1 a.m., you go to the capstan hole on the ship, and you look through your legs, and then you'll be able to see it, which sounds so ridiculous. I'm pretty sure it was just trying to prank the new guys.
Yeah, that's definitely a hazing ritual.
Yeah, but also that part is pretty much true, because they're quite easy to anger, and if you ever see it for whatever reason and it is naked, do not give it close, which is old advice.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain that.
The thing is, it'll get angry at you because it thinks you pity them, and it doesn't want your pity. They are easy to anger.
I'm sorry, I really shouldn't be laughing quite as much as that, but you've got a 2 feet tall, kobold-like, ginger-haired creature running around, and if you see it naked, it gets angry if you try to give it clothes on the ship because it thinks you pity them.
Yes.
I'm not sure how that kind of all comes to transpire, but you know what? I'm just not going to question it.
Yeah, better that way. I mean, usually you won't see them at all, so it's not something you have to think about every day. Yeah, so usually when you have one on your ship, it is usually quite benign. In fact, it does repairs, it does fix leaks and everything.
Oh, okay.
It's even said to protect against illness and pirates, which, you know, is hard to prove, so it's probably more legend than anything. But in general, it was seen as a very good thing to have one, and that's why
so many children were killed next to trees.
yes. Yeah, so that's why sailors who, especially back in that time period, were known to be somewhat superstitious.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to offend any sailors, but you know.
Well, I mean, in their defense, we have found that a lot of the creatures they were on the lookout for actually are real.
Yeah. That's very true. That's very true.
So less superstition, but yeah.
Is it right? That's not. I mean, technically, that's not superstition then anymore, I guess.
No. I mean, hell, we've talked about the Leviathan and various creatures of that ilk. So I think sailors of the past got a bad rap.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
But anyway, carry on. Superstitious sailors. Sailors?
The sailors, the tailors, the Swifties, they very much try to please the Klabautermann and keep it happy, and you know, captains would share the best food they have, and generally you very much were expected to treat it with respect. And
Yeah.
there's even reports of basically the crew throwing their captain overboard if he denied the existence of one.
Excellent.
And that doesn't even matter if that specific ship had one, but you know, just to be sure.
Just to be certain, they're quite happy to throw the main authority off the ship to appease the Klabautermann.
Yeah.
Lessons from history. Anyway.
So it usually keeps the ship afloat, and you're very happy to have one, and it can even keep the ship going a bit longer than it usually would.
Okay.
So you know, they'll fix up holes or whatnot, or keep it from breaking. But at some point, there is a very real possibility that they will just kind of give up and decide that the ship is done for, and then they leave the ship, which is the point where the ship is basically about to sink.
Okay.
So if anyone ever sees one leaving the ship, it's usually a bad sign, and they try to reach land if they can.
Okay, so if you see the Klabautermann jump in ship, it's probably a good idea to do it too.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Unless you're in the middle of the ocean, where it's usually not a good idea to leave the ship. But
I don't know if you can make friends with a Leviathan. Oh, the Leviathan.
that seems unlikely.
Oh, no one has yet, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Could be the first one. Do not try this for legal reasons. We're not responsible for anyone trying to make friends with a Leviathan.
I mean, when it comes to the Leviathan, we'll never know if you even tried, so I'm not even going to bother.
Yeah. Fair enough.
But no, I do have a question, though, about them.
Yes.
So,
question away.
How do they maintain the ship? Because based on what you're saying, they hide. They don't really like to be seen unless it's their own kind of thing. They'll protect the ship. They'll do all these things, and they have the ability to kind of extend its shelf life in a way. How do they actually do this? Is it kind of fully mundane, or do they have powers, or?
Well, it's a mixture of both, really. So
Awesome.
The one thing is obviously that they do all this usually without being seen. So
Yeah.
And you do hear them working, though. So it appears that they are using normal tools and everything. They just have this uncanny ability to really stay out of sight of people and just keep things going. And
Cool.
when we're not quite sure how they move the materials, because these would have to be visible, but it seems to be a matter of just timing out when people are asleep or not looking and everything. And and with their spectral nature, they're not really quite as bound as we are in terms of walking from place A to place B, so they have a lot more flexibility to avoid people's view.
Okay.
Which is probably how they avoid being seen by people on the ship.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Of course, against all warnings and customs and superstitions, of course, there were always people who denied their existence and got thrown overboard, or who just didn't respect it as much as they should have, or maybe they were just misunderstood, like trying to give it something and, were misinterpreted or whatever. And that's where things can get hairy. So usually they help the ship, but when they are angered, they'll start off light most of the time. So they start to do pranks on sailors or something.
Okay.
But this can easily escalate to tangling ropes, which is usually not a good idea.
That's bad.
Or not a good thing to happen on sailing ships. And also worse. In the worst case, they're just gonna sink the entire ship, and they have no problem just buggering off and leaving the ship to sink. They are kind of spectral-ish creatures and do not care for our mortality really at this point. So it's really not a good idea to mess with them too much.
Okay, so the truth behind the myth is that they're not bound to the ship. They they are easily able to move between whatever ships they would like
Yeah.
to.
They seem to be kind of voluntarily bound, so they kind of pick a ship and they stay on that ship, but at some point they decide, I don't have anything to do with this ship anymore, and they just leave.
Okay.
In the meantime, they usually stay on board. Very rarely it happens that they kind of announce the ship to people in the harbor or something, like, hey, Captain Greybeard is coming back, or, you know, weird sightings, which may or may not be true.
Imagine if you were a captain with a bad name.
Yeah, Captain Steve.
All rise for Captain Pooeybeard.
Oh god, beautiful. Transitioning smoothly to the second part of the episode, where I tell you how I encountered this Klabautermann creature.
I can't wait to find out what you did to it.
I didn't do anything to it for a change.
Lies.
I'm actually telling you the truth for once. Anyway, whether you believe me or not, I was on a boat not too long ago, 2-3 weeks, something, and I was just being sent on a routine checkup on your magical super clam from a few episodes back.
Is he doing okay?
Yeah, there's nothing really to report. It's still bubbling away and posing no threat really for anything, so we'll just
Excellent.
leave it to do its thing. But I was there on a boat and I wasn't captaining it. We were working with a local captain who was or who is a friend of the CCI. He did not die on this trip. And
yep, don't worry, I'll give some money over to the to the collection for him.
yeah, I'm not supposed to tell people that. Anyway, so he informs me that he has a Klabautermann on his ship, and
okay.
as we've seen before, it's not really a bad thing. So I'm just I know what's up. Good to know. The thing is, I had one of the new wardens with me.
Okay.
One who shall not be named.
Okay.
For reasons that will become clear. And they were basically sent to kind of shadow me, see how things work.
Yeah,
and
back into training, yeah.
Yeah. And for some reason, they didn't believe in the Klabautermann and thought we were making this entire thing up. And
okay.
I tried to tell them, didn't believe me, and just kept insisting that this creature isn't real, which the Klabautermann did not really like his existence being denied, basically.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So over the time of the trip, it started with harmless pranks like a hat flying off into the sea, or a banana peel left on the boat, silly things. But the warden, the unnamed warden, thinks it's us who are pranking them, and still not believing that there's a creature on this ship that we are on.
Okay.
It was very frustrating because this entire time I was afraid how much this would escalate.
Oh god.
So I was standing there like, please believe me, we're not fooling you. There is a creature on this ship. The Klabautermann is real. You are working with weird creatures now. This is real.
I'm sure.
Do not piss him off.
I'm sure the Klabautermann loved the fact you called it a weird creature.
Well,
Gonna consider that, had you?
actually, I didn't know. But moving swiftly on from that, I'm not taking any blame on this one. Anyway, I was not successful in my persuasion attempts, and it escalated, and we got into a storm, which was, it's not a nice thing in the first place, but the Klabautermann got really angry at this point and was kind of like tearing at parts of the hull of the ship and everything, and it was basically trying to sink us.
Oh no.
So I had to intervene because we were not anywhere near the port at this point. So I had to grab the emergency chicken and aim it at the Klabautermann.
The emergency chicken.
I didn't mention the chicken, did I?
No, you didn't mention the emergency chicken. This is going all the way back to the basilisk and emergency weasel stuff.
Yes. Yes, so the Klabautermann can get quite unruly, and for this reason it was always customary to have a chicken on board, because that for some reason scares them. And yeah, so if we know one of them is on a ship, or people in the know are aware of that, they have a chicken on hand. So yeah, I grab the chicken and I basically aim it at the at the Klabautermann who's trying to sink our ship, and I scream at him, "Don't make me use this!" Which is entirely bluffing at this point, because I have no idea what the next step would be if this doesn't work. I have no idea what the chicken would even do. But luckily, the Klabautermann just basically throws his hands up and says like, whoa, put that thing away. And yeah, I was able to keep him at bay for the rest of the trip until we got back to the nearest port.
I mean, you do realize you missed out on being able to turn around and finally, very seriously, say the phrase, "Listen here, mother clucker."
Yeah, I missed that. I wasn't smart enough to do that.
Oh, that'll make a cock joke.
Anyway, we made it back to port, and the captain is very much not amused, because the boat is now basically not usable anymore, because once they get to this point, you usually don't want to sail out with an angry Klabautermann anymore.
Reasonable.
So I made a report and everything. The CCI reimbursed him to get a new boat.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's discipline for the new warden.
Yeah, well, he's had an expensive lesson there.
Yes, basically. So as far as I've heard, they now have to basically pay for the boat out of their wages until it's paid off.
Oh, there goes the bonus.
So that's gonna take a while, and hopefully they learned their lesson.
Yeah. Hopefully they did. It's certainly a bit of a certainly an interesting story. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely wasn't expecting the chicken twist. But you know what? That's an interesting creature. I like it. I like that one.
Yes.
And
it is very interesting.
by the sounds of it, it's one of those creatures we don't really need to contain. We just let them live their lives then.
Yeah, we usually let them live their lives. When it's on a boat, there's usually someone who knows what they're dealing with, so they make sure not to piss it off too much. Usually, it doesn't always work, as we've seen here.
Yeah, of course.
And one interesting thing about them is that we're not quite sure how intelligent they are. Like, they are capable of speech and they look very familiar to us, but at the same time, no one really managed to have a proper conversation with them. They're superficially like tiny humans, but and that seems to be where the similarities end. They just function differently from us.
Okay.
It seems.
Cool.
Yeah, but talking of people functioning differently, do you have any idea where you might find other people who function in interesting ways?
Yes, well, there appears to be a place called the Blink and You'll Miff It Discord, in which you'll go.
Blink and you'll ship it.
Not yet. And if you go there, you will hopefully find like-minded people whose brains do function in a different way. Don't know if that's offensive or not, but we're going with it.
I'm not sure.
But yeah, so if you want to go and join us on the Discord, you can find it on the description to this episode. So on whatever podcast app that you use or listen to, or however you listen to this show, go into the description, you'll find the link, and you can talk about all the different creatures that you listen to. You can talk about your favourite episodes. You can even suggest episodes for us to do. Seeing as between me and Chris, we have seen pretty much everything that this really, really crazy world has to offer.
Everything.
Absolutely everything. And it haunts our dreams.
Oh, yes, it does. It very much does. And while you are doing all that, there's another thing you should do, and that is subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.
Exactly.
You should also go back and listen to our old episodes because they're all evergreen. You can listen to them in any order you want. You can just grab a creature that you found interesting and listen to it. I mean, grab the episode, not the actual creature.
They won't like that.
Might be a bad idea. Yes.
It's bad.
I mean, some do, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, subscribe, leave us a rating, 5 stars, 1,000,000 stars, whatever the best rating you can give us, because the algorithm demands it so.
Exactly, the algorithm demands it. The algorithm demands that you sacrifice. You sacrifice everything in pursuit of the things you love, and you love us.
You very much love us. Sacrifice everything for our well-being and for our new spin-off Blink and Your Ship It, where we match up different creatures from different mythologies and see what their horrible baby abominations look like. I don't know, we still need to workshop it.
I'm gonna say Beishi. Beishi is what is the acronym. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue, but hey, you know. But yeah, so thank you very much for listening. And unless there's anything else to say, I think the last thing really is to say goodbye. So, goodbye.
Goodbye.